Welcome to episode number 349, where Divya Alter returns to the podcast to talk all about summer cooking. This heat of summertime can really affect our agni, our digestive fire, and Divya gives us lots of tips about how to cook to support our digestive fire, the summer produce available, and lots more. So please stay tuned. Hi there, I'm your host Colette, and on this podcast I will be sharing the teachings of Ayurveda, yoga, and holistic health practices. Now, if you're new to Ayurveda, I recommend checking out the first couple of episodes where I do an introduction to Ayurveda and the mind-body types. Thanks for listening, and now here's a new episode. Hello and welcome back to the Elements of Ayurveda podcast. Today I'm very happy to welcome back our regular guest, Divya Alter, who is a pioneer of Ayurvedic cooking in the West, having taught over 20,000 students over the past 13 years, both in New York City and abroad. She is the co-founder of the nation's first Ayurvedic culinary school, Bhagavat Life, and the chef owner of the award-winning New York City restaurant, Divya's Kitchen, which reimagines classic dishes through an Ayurvedic lens. She is also the author of 2 cookbooks, What to Eat for How You Feel and Joy of Balance. Divya began her practice over 30 years ago as an intern in the kitchen of a yoga ashram in her native country of Bulgaria. Soon after, she moved to India, where she became captivated by Ayurveda and the notion that prevention and healing can take place through food. Consequently, Divya became a certified nutritional consultant, educator, and chef in the Shaka Mansiya Ayurveda tradition. Divya, welcome back to the podcast. It's great to have you here.
Oh, Colette, thank you so much for having me. It's wonderful to be back after a while.
Yeah, it's been a while and always a pleasure to chat with you. And today we want to do a seasonal episode. We're in the Northern Hemisphere, you in New York, me here in the south of France, and we're in the thick of summer. The summer heat is kicking in. And of course, that can be a different experience for everyone, right? But today I'd love to focus and chat to you about summer foods, cooking in summer, how our body is affected during the hot months. And I think that's a great place to start, Divya, laying the foundation of what's happening to our agni during hot weather, because our digestive fire is definitely affected by the heat. Can you share with us what's happening in our body, and particularly with our agni?
Yeah, I mean, we're definitely feeling the heat here in New York City. I think it's also the concrete. When it gets heated, it gets hotter. And here in New York, we experience more of humid heat because we're surrounded by water. But in other parts of the world, you may experience more of a dry heat. So it's interesting how and our bodies respond differently to the different types of heat. So notice the area you're in. Are you more in dry heat or humidity, like humid heat, so it feels like a sauna? Because it will have different effect, and then you will need different things to balance as well. But when it's very hot out there, outside in the environment, it's very natural for our digestive metabolic fire to go down, for agni to go down. And you will notice this. You will be like, I don't feel like eating. Yeah. You just want to eat watermelon all day, or you're satisfied with some fruit and maybe just a little bite, but you don't feel like eating. Your appetite, your agni goes down. And this is a natural response of our body. When it's cold outside, agni goes up to kind of support the body, keep the body warm in the cold environment. And when it's hot outside, agni goes down. So very interesting how our body is designed. So to keep agni high, it's important, because it's tricky. Usually foods and herbs that increase agni a very pungent or very sour or maybe salty. These are the foods that also increase pitta in the body. So what we experience in the summer is an interesting phenomena. We have low agni, but high pitta. So we feel hot, but our appetite is very low. And that's why it's also important to distinguish between the difference between agni and pitta. So agni is just pure fire, and pitta is fire with a combination of water. So Vaidya Mishra, my teacher from the Shakavansya Ayurveda lineage, he used to compare the pitta, if you imagine a ghee lamp, so you have like a ghee wick and you have the ghee, which is the fuel, and then you have the flame. So the flame is agni, the ghee is pitta, and the ghee wick is like it's the things between the two. It's called sandhi in Ayurveda. So pitta and agni are different. So in the summer we experience high pitta, low agni. So how do you increase your agni without increasing pitta?
Right. That is the question. And the problem is that obviously during the hot months, people often go for cold items, right? I want the cold drinks. I want ice. I want ice cream. I want cooling foods because that's going to cool me down, right? So let's address that now. What happens in the summertime with our compromised agni if we have these cold foods and drinks?
So what happens is that when we drink or eat icy foods, it actually lowers agni even more.
Yeah.
Because everything we put in our mouth has to go through the digestive fire, and it has to cook in the stomach, so to say, first. So when the fire in your stomach is so low and you put something very cold and icy, imagine pouring ice over fire. It will actually diminish the fire even more. And this will increase your pitta even more. Because the body's natural immediate response will be like, oh, this feels really cold. Let me add more heat to it. So pitta is the heat. Agni is the fire. It's just so amazing. And also, what I tell people is like, okay, you can have something slightly chilled, but no ice. And if you feel really hot, just put it in your skin, put these icy
externally.
Put it externally. This will really cool you down.
Yeah.
Without compromising your agni so much. So fortunately, there are herbs, spices, foods that increase agni without increasing pitta. And my favorite ones, the coriander, like every part, the coriander seed, which you can grind and cook with, or you can make coriander water. You can crush coriander seeds and soak them overnight, like 1 tablespoon of coriander seeds, soak overnight with 1 liter, 4 cups of water, and then uncooked water, just room temperature water. And then the next morning, just strain it and drink this throughout the day. You'll be surprised how cool you will feel. You will not sweat.
It's so lovely.
Yeah.
It's so lovely. And the smell from the coriander seeds when you're crushing them is just delightful, isn't it? There's such a beautiful floral smell.
Yeah, it's very refreshing. This is called himadhanya. And then cilantro is another great, so that's the leaves of the coriander. Cilantro, also very cooling, but helps agni, and very cleansing also. Cilantro is great for many other things. I love fennel seeds in small quantities. So sometimes when I wake up in the morning and I feel like, I'm kind of sluggish, I would just in the winter, I would have ginger water in the morning. So I wouldn't just have plain water, a little bit of water just to get the elimination going. But I would have hot water, like boiled water, with a pinch or two of fennel seeds, because fennel in small amounts is cooling, but it helps balance agni.
Right. It helps without aggravating pitta.
Yes. So fennel and coriander are great. And if you're not overly heated, you can also use cumin. If your really appetite is really low, a little bit of cumin water also helps as well. And of course you can cook with it. So yeah, these are some ideas in terms of spices.
Right. And it's very dependent, obviously, on your constitution and your vikriti or your current imbalance. So all this needs to be tailored. But obviously today we're given general advice. And so, like you said, eating cold foods, anything iced or cold drinks is definitely going to diminish the agni even further and just completely zap our energy, right? Which is why our agni is affected in the first place, because the body is using all the energy to cool us down. So we want to conserve our energy because we're already depleted with the heat and our body system is trying to cool us down. So let's talk about how nature helps us during these hot months. You already talked about the wonderful spices that can help us. And let's talk about the produce that's available, because nature provides us with cooling produce during the summer months.
Yeah, I mean, go to the farmer's market. I was there yesterday, our Union Square farmer's market here. And I was like, I mean, there were 10 different types of summer squash. And I was like, wow, this is amazing. And I also got a bitter melon. One of our farmers grows bitter melon.
Oh, nice.
Which it grows like a cucumber. It's so great for the summer because it's bitter, and bitter reduces heat, reduces pitta, and it's also great for the liver. So I'm going to make some bitter melon for lunch today. And of course, cucumbers and radishes. It's interesting because radish, especially daikon radish, they're pungent by nature. They are heating, especially when they're raw. But Vaidya Mishra explained that, especially when you cook the radish, it becomes sweeter. And then it pulls, radish has this property of pulling hot acidic toxins that increase pitta out of the body. So he would say, in terms of, properties, it's heating externally speaking, but when it goes through the metabolic processes in the body, it's ultimately cooling because it pulls out hot acidic toxins. And I'm like, oh, that's interesting. So very simple way to also reduce pitta. I remember one time I had a sunstroke. I was out on the beach for too long. And not only was I red, my skin was totally red. We can talk about taking care of skin burns also. But, oh my God, I was vomiting, it was intense. And what I ate for 3 days was just plain zucchini or loki squash. If you can find loki squash, even better. And like bottle gourd is called also. Just very plain, with a little bit of coriander, hardly any spices, and just cooling the body off. And it was very, very helpful. Coconut, another great cooling food. Coconut water, wonderful electrolyte drink. Natural, the one out of the coconut, not so much out of the bottle. But coconut water is fantastic. Coconut meat, coconut chutney. I made these coconut ladus, like little coconut sweet balls. Very nourishing. It balances both vata and pitta, and absolutely delicious. And another great spice coming to mind is green cardamom. So it's interesting because cardamom has pungency, but it's cooling to the body. So pungency will help agni, increase agni, and help you digest your food, but it will not overheat your body. So that's another great.
Yeah, and you mentioned the taste there. You mentioned how bitter is cooling to the body, and other tastes that particularly pacify pitta would be sweet and astringent. So those summer squashes, would they be considered sweet in taste?
Yes, sweet, and their skin has a little bit of astringency also.
Okay.
And there is a very abundant variety of leafy greens. Some of them are more bitter, some of them are more astringent. So all the leafy greens, when you cook them, they're fantastic for the summer, and they will not aggravate vata when they're cooked.
Yeah.
And if you have a little more appetite, you can enjoy a raw salad, which we try to gravitate more in the hot season. But if you're really not hungry, then don't eat raw vegetables, especially because you'll be hard. Even cucumbers will be harder for you to digest. And I love putting cucumber on my face. It's like, it's so cooling.
It's so hydrating and refreshing. And so I'd love for you to talk about, how do you cook the summer squashes and the bitter melon? How do you cook those in summertime?
In the summer, I also think about cooking methods that are not too heating for the body.
And for the kitchen.
And for the kitchen. I never deep fry, but I reduce pan frying because pan frying is very high heat cooking. And I roast or bake as little as possible. So usually I love to stir fry the summer squash because it's very quick cooking and it gives like a little crunch, but it's also cooked enough to digest it well. And sometimes I would add a little bit of ginger. So a little bit of ginger powder can also support agni. Ginger and black pepper, or white pepper, like a little bit of pepper is fine. Even so, the pungent spices you can keep on the low, like ginger and pepper, like much less that you would use in the cold season, but a little bit is fine for keeping agni burning and not increasing pitta too much.
Would stir frying cook through the squash enough?
Yes.
It's cut it down to small.
It depends on how you cut it, and you cook it very quickly. I stir fry on medium to high heat on the stove, and you have to stir it constantly. You have to shake it, move it constantly. So it's delicious, and it feels really balancing. Of course, you can boil and make a soup with it. You can saute, another great method. But avoid cooking methods or blanch. Sometimes, like I would blanch broccoli or cauliflower. In blanching means plunging the vegetable in boiling hot water, and then it takes a minute or two, depending on what it is, and then you plunge it in cold water to shock it, and it keeps these beautiful, vibrant colors. And then you can season it. You can quickly saute it with some seasoning. So this is very quick cooking, and of course you can steam as well. So these are lighter, lower fat. So in the summer we need less fat, and maybe you feel that way because pitta is high. Pitta has oiliness to it. So if you eat a lot of fat in the summer, you will probably get some skin problems, like extra pimples or rashes, because this extra fat somehow, if it's not metabolized properly, will have to come out somehow.
Right.
We need a lot more fat in the cold and dry season, like in vata season, but in pitta season, we need less fat. So cooking methods like steaming, sauteing, blanching, this takes very little fat. Refreshing. It's very refreshing to eat that way.
Great. And I want to ask you, what oils are you using for stir frying during the summertime?
Yes, so cultured ghee is tridoshic, which means you can use it all year round. You just have to use less because ghee by nature is cooling as well. It's very nourishing and very cooling. I love ghee also because especially when we're traveling and moving around and being outdoors, vata can go very high, and ghee kind of keeps both vata and pitta in check. And I like to use olive oil. Olive oil, depending on, of course, high quality extra virgin olive oil, but depending on its polyphenol content, like the very spicy olive oil wouldn't be so seasonal in summer because it's more pungent, but in like the mild olive oil is fine.
Mm.
And also coconut oil, because it's so cooling, is great, is the best time to use coconut oil is in the hot weather. Just keep in mind that it's harder to digest. So,
Right, it's heavier in quality, yeah. Okay.
It's spices, depends on what you mix it with, it's fine.
I'm jumping in here with a special discount offer on my online consultations. I've never offered it before. And the reason I'm offering it now is because on August 17th, the Elements of Ayurveda podcast celebrates 7 years. I can't believe it has been 7 years since I started this podcast. And to mark this occasion, I'm offering a 10% discount on all my online consultations. That includes the initial 90-minute intake consultation, the 60-minute follow-up consultations, and my support and accountability packages. They consist of 45-minute sessions, and you can buy a package of 3 or a package of 5. All you have to do is go to my website, elementshealingandwellbeing.com, go to the consultation page, choose your consultation you want to purchase, and in the checkout, use the code anniversary in the coupon slot to receive your 10% discount. Now, this offer is only valid until July 31st, 2024. So act now. And the consultation must be booked before August 31st, 2024. Of course, this rule only applies to the first of the 45-minute sessions in the support and accountability packages. So as I said, use the code anniversary at checkout for your consultation to receive the 10% discount until July 31st, 2024. So act now. And you can also find the link and the info in the show notes. And I hope to connect with you soon.
And also applying coconut oil on the skin is big relief for sunburn, and you can apply it before you go out in the sun. And you can also apply it if you feel like, oh my God, I'm so red. Just put coconut oil, you'll feel big relief. And aloe vera, so fresh aloe vera leaves, which are available here in our grocery stores, really good to apply on your skin to keep it cool and moist. I have a great recipe for aloe vera mint cooler in Joy of Balance.
Oh, that sounds lovely.
I describe the properties of aloe vera. It's not for pregnancy. If you're pregnant, you should never drink aloe vera because it's purgative.
Yes.
But it's really delicious and it's great.
That's in Joy of Balance.
Yes.
Oh, that sounds delicious. Excellent. And I wanted to ask you about the coconut oil on the skin. Obviously, yes, we recommend that for Abhyanga, particularly for those high pitta constitutions. But do you find that if you went out with it on the skin or went to bed with it at night without showering it off, the excess off, that it would create a heat trap?
Yeah. So you should not put too much. You shouldn't be dripping in oil, just a little bit, and rub it so the skin will actually soak it up. You shouldn't look oily. And also, I never leave oil on my body or my hair overnight. It traps and it creates a lot of congestion. So, I have friends, who are really passionate about coconut oil for their hair, which is great. And I saw a friend who came to me for a consultation and she was like, I am so congested. I wake up so congested. And I'm like, okay, so tell me what you're doing. And she's like, oh, I put coconut oil on my hair and I wake up in the morning and I leave it overnight. And I'm like, that's what it is.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because coconut oil, leave it overnight during kapha time. It creates a lot of blockages and congestion.
Yeah, so absolutely. Brad.
Yeah, she stopped doing that, and and the problem was solved. So also because when you apply oil, the oil pulls toxins from the different levels of the skin. That's why it's important to wash it off after you apply it for 20 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour if you're getting a massage, but then shower after that to wash it.
Absolutely. Good point. Okay. I want to go back to some of the produce you mentioned. Let's talk about bitter melon because it's not a common one. It's like you said, it looks like a cucumber. It's got spiky, it's like a gourd, a big fat cucumber with spiky parts. It's green in color, right? But how do you cook this?
I love bitter melon. That's why I have recipes in both of my cookbooks. And I love the way I feel after I eat bitter melon. Because even though it's very bitter, if you cook it with spices and ghee or olive oil, it will not aggravate vata too much. Also, if you don't need too much of it, it becomes tridoshic. So, you can roast it. I like to roast it, and if it's too hot in your kitchen to turn the oven on, you can just saute it. And some people like to soak it in water first or boil it in water briefly to get the bitterness, to reduce the bitterness. And when I asked Vaidya about this, he was like, no, but then you're really reducing its medicinal effect. So he's like, let bitter melon grow to you. It's like, and it's true. It really grows on you. When I first tasted it, I was like, this is really bitter. And then I started liking it so much. And it's when you add spices, a little bit of lime juice, which kind of reduces the perception of bitterness. It's actually very tasty. And the immediate effect after you eat it is that if you had any mental fog, it's gone. You get this mental clarity right away, which is one of the karmas, one of the actions of bitter taste. So, and it's great for your liver, it's great for your gallbladder, great for your bile. It's really good for your skin, the cleansing effects. It's great for your blood. I mean, it lowers high blood sugar. There's so many, it also helps with high cholesterol. I mean, some of the biggest medical schools in America have done extensive research on bitter melon. And yeah, we have one of our products, we have a broth, we call it detox broth. And it's with bitter melon powder and beet powder and some balancing spices and herbs. So I know that, because I have readers of my books all over the world, and they will message me and they will say, I cannot find bitter melon in wherever they are. And I would recommend having maybe some of the powder and making it properly. You have to always mix bitter melon with some appropriate spices. Coriander is one of them, to make sure that you don't get a detox crisis by eating it. But our broth is great the detox broth is great if you don't have fresh bitter melon. But so medicinal. It's so magical.
Wow, great. I'm glad I covered that. Another one I want to cover is zucchini or courgette, as we call it here in Europe. That's another wonderful one, very hydrating, has similar qualities to that of the cucumber. But it's a great one. I think it's a staple for me during the hot season because it's so fast to cook. How do you like to cook that?
Yeah. Have you ever grown zucchini, Colette?
No, I haven't.
Oh my God. My mom grows zucchini, and when they're in season, they grow. I mean, she picks a whole basket of zucchini. They grow so fast. Like from one day, it's a little bit like 2-inch long, and the next day it's ready to be picked.
Wow.
And when zucchini are in season, you really have to be creative how to use them, because also they don't last long. They spoil rather quickly. So I like to saute them, stir fry them. I like to mix them. I like colors when I cook. So I like to mix, for example, the other day I got golden squash, which is like very bright yellow zucchini. And I sauteed it with green beans, which are another great food for the summer. They're very cooling and very nourishing. And it looks so beautiful. You had the bright yellow and the bright green, and it was really delicious. I like to roast them. They're very tasty roasted. I know it's a little hot, but once in a while for change of texture and taste, I like to sprinkle some herbs and roast them with a little bit of olive oil and salt. I like to make soups with them, like maybe a creamy soup, especially before and after traveling. That's very, very nourishing. Soup is great right after you land, like a creamy, calming soup with lots of ghee in it. It really helps to ground vata. What else? I spiralize them.
Oh,
I have
yeah.
this method to make zucchini spaghetti.
Oh, nice.
And very briefly saute them. Literally takes a minute to saute them and mix them with pesto. So I like to stuff them. So I have recipes for stuffed zucchini. I would make like a pilaf with quinoa or buckwheat and with spices, maybe some nuts. Make that and then make zucchini boats and then stuff the zucchini and serve them with a sauce. It's really delightful.
Oh, nice. That sounds lovely. And what nuts do you use in your cooking if you're making something like a pilaf? Because that was a question I had because I saw a recipe a while ago with zucchini with almonds. And I'm wondering about that in regards combination.
I mean, most nuts would work. I love walnuts. I grew up with walnuts, so they're very much soft to me. So I like to put walnuts in everything. Especially I have walnuts right now from a family farm in California, and they're amazing. I mean, they send me pictures of the walnut trees. It's a wonderful family farm. Pine nuts also, they're much lighter to digest. Slivered almonds, pecans work well as well. So, sometimes for color, I would use, pistachios.
Oh yeah, that's nice.
Color. So it depends on the dish. But I love nuts, and especially when I toast them with spices, they become easier to digest. I don't have to soak them.
That was my question. So you heat them up a little bit with spices so they're easier to digest. Yes. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
So Vaidemisha, that was interesting about nuts because Vaidemisha told us that it's really important to soak nuts for digestion, to hydrate them. And I have soaked almonds in our fridge every day. We use them as a snack. They're delicious, ojas building. But sometimes as garnishes or when I add them to vegetables or something like that, instead of soaking them, he said, if you toast them in ghee or olive oil with spices, or you can roast them also in the oven at 300 degrees, low temperature, roast them, then he said they become easier to digest too. Okay. But if you do that, you have to eat them right away, because as soon as you roast them or you toast them in fat, they can go rancid very quickly.
So just toast them as you need them. Cook them as you need them.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, great. Thank you for that. The other thing I want to cover, of course, is fruits in the summer, because this is a time when fruit is abundant and fruit being so hydrating. So let's talk about the fantastic fruit available right now.
Oh, this is my favorite time because of all the fruits.
So good.
And I especially love, like, my mom she grows so many varieties of fruits, and they're like from early spring to the end of summer. Starts with the strawberries and it ends with the grapes and the apples and the pears, and the persimmons and the pomegranates. It's just amazing. The abundance of fruit that's available to us during Pitta season. And that's the gift of Mother Nature, because Pitta is balanced by sweet and juicy fruits. So anything that's sweet and juicy, like really ripe. Right now on the market, we have peaches, and I bought some yesterday at the farmer's market, and they labeled them on the label. It says sweet as candy.
Yeah.
As sweet as candy, something like that. And I tried them this morning, and I'm like, oh, they're so good. They're juicy. Oh, it's so good. So, yes. And all the different types of melons, very, very hydrating. Apricots, cherries, like all of these are great for balancing Pitta. And they can be enjoyed raw, It's because also they have a little bit of sourness, and sourness increases agni. It helps digestion. My suggestion is not to mix them, like eat melon by itself. Don't add it to other things because it looks pretty, you know.
Right.
Or
with all that water, they're digesting at a different rate. They're going to ferment. And also to have them at room temperature, right? Because a lot of people store their fruit in the refrigerator. So make sure it's out at room temperature before you eat it as well.
And you know, in India, what they do to digest fruit also is they would add sprinkle a pinch of black salt.
Yeah.
Because black salt really increases agni. So for something like watermelon, for example, cook it with a pinch of black salt. It's for Westerners, it's not their taste so much, but you can try it.
I know my friends from down south in the US, they're putting salt on the watermelon, and it really increases the flavor too. It just really brings out this, it's good.
Yeah. Sometimes I sprinkle like ground cardamom.
Nice.
To digest it, and it feels good. But so don't mix them too much, you know, like a fruit salad, especially if your agni is low, your appetite is low. Just eat one type of fruit at a time.
Yeah, and then don't combine it with other food. Just have it as a snack on its own, room temperature. Keep it simple.
Yeah, it's so enjoyable. Wonderful.
Yeah, and you get to appreciate, like you did this morning, you get to appreciate that fruit and, you know, have awareness of all the taste and the texture and the hydration, which is what I want to talk about next. Let's talk about hydration. So we're just talking about the hydrating fruits of summer. So obviously hydration is extremely important at this time of year during the hot months when we're all sweating a little bit more. And, you know, we have to take into account that we may have a loss of electrolytes as well, which play a really important role in balancing our body fluids, regulating our heart rate, or supporting our nerve and muscle function. So it's not just about, you know, making sure we're taking in more liquids, but it's essential for the body, given that our body is made up of a huge amount of water.
Yes, definitely. So we may feel a need to drink more water. But again, water has to be digested also.
Right.
Sometimes, so Ayurveda recommends to cook the water, especially if your agni is low, cook it, like boil it. And for pitta balancing, the way you can do it is, let's say for the day, let's say you're drinking 1.5 liters of water. Let's say that's your usual water intake. Now, what you can do is put 3 liters of water in a big pot and bring it to a hard boil, like uncovered, cook it on the highest heat until it evaporates by half. So it becomes 1.5 liters. So when you boil water and you evaporate it by half, it becomes pitta balancing. And then you cool it to room temperature and you sip this for the day. So you could do this early in the morning. As soon as you get up, you know, boil the water. It takes about maybe 30 minutes or so. So while you're getting ready in the bathroom and all that, your water can be boiling, and then let it cool down to room temperature and put it in your water bottle. You will be surprised. This is how Ayurvedic doctors sometimes use water as medicine, cooked water as medicine to strengthen agni. When agni is so low that herbs cannot be digested and help the individual, they would use cooked water that has been reduced, evaporated. So for different doshas is different. For balancing vata, you evaporate it by 1/3. So from 1 liter, let's say 4 cups of water, you have 3/4 liter of water left. For pitta, you evaporate it by half. And for kapha, you evaporate it by 2/3, which means that you only have 1/3 of the water left. Really heavily cooked water, it's best for kapha balancing. So yes, drinking, again, coconut water is a fantastic natural electrolyte.
Yes.
And especially when you're severely dehydrated. I mean, you should be careful not to get severely dehydrated.
Yeah.
It's also very cooling, very nourishing. In What to Eat for How You Feel, my first book, I share a recipe that I learned from Vaidya Mishra, and he calls it hydrating drink. And it's a perfect drink that includes all 6 tastes. And the ingredients serve as a natural electrolyte. So he always recommended that drink. Very easy to make, very simple. But he always recommended that drink, especially when we are working out and we, exerting ourselves a lot, to use it as a hydration. And then Enjoy Balance, again, the aloe vera cooler, mint cooler is also another great hydrating drink. So, but again, if agni is low, you could add like a spice to your water, to kind of, you're still hydrating, very small amount of ground coriander or something. You're still being hydrated, but the coriander makes sure that your agni, is good.
Okay, great. And I think we do have to address as well overhydrating. Because that is an issue too. There is we need to take the middle path and things. And again, we have this concept in the West sometimes more is better. But if you're chugging or gulping down copious amounts of water, you're just going to weaken your agni further, right? Overwhelm your agni, and your gastric juices are going to be diluted.
Yes, definitely. My current Ayurveda teacher, he's so amazing, Dr. Satyajit Katkal. He's seen a lot of Western patients, and he would say, I think one of the main reasons for manda or vishama, like low or irregular agni for Westerners, especially in America, is drinking way too much water.
Yeah, and ice water with meals.
So first thing in the morning, 1 liter of water. It's like boom,
Yeah.
Too much for the kidneys. It's not just the stomach. It's too much for the kidneys. And yes, you may think oh yeah, when I drink so much water, I don't feel hungry, so I'm not gaining weight. But it messes up the whole metabolism, which ultimately can lead to gaining weight. And then what happens also is, if you don't have the habit of sipping water, between meals, then by the time it's time to eat, let's say lunch, you sit down to eat and you're so thirsty. I see this at the restaurant at Divya's Kitchen. People didn't drink much water, and they come, and while they're waiting for their order, they drink 2 glasses of water because you're thirsty.
Yeah.
But it's right before they eat, and then they eat, and if they ordered something spicy, with hot sauce and things like that, that makes you more thirsty also. So after the meal, they would jug another cup or 2 of water, and I can't tell them anything. It's not my place to do that. But I observe the habit, and I see myself too. Sometimes if I forget to drink water, especially when I'm cooking, I forget to drink water sometimes, especially if I'm cooking large quantity and I'm really into it. And I notice I'm really thirsty when it's a mealtime. And it's okay, what do? I would just sip a little bit of water. I'm still dehydrated, but it's time to eat. So it's important to develop the habit, I think, of drinking water, sipping water between meals, so that you're not super thirsty when you sit down to eat.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think that's a great tip. And ideally, you're staying hydrated by sipping throughout the day, that you're not getting to that point of dehydration and needing to chug or gulp water, because you definitely don't want to do that. So yeah, sipping throughout the day is key, and making sure that you're not overwhelming yourself with too much liquids, because Ayurveda tells us too, right? We shouldn't overhydrate when we're hungry, and vice versa. We shouldn't eat when we're really thirsty. Again, it's all about moderation. So even if you need to set a reminder on your phone, a little ding that goes off every 15 minutes that you're taking a sip until it becomes a habit, it's really important, especially during the hot months.
Yeah, and this will also regulate, if you're regulated in your water intake, you'll be also regulated in your peeing.
Yes.
And then it's much easier for your kidneys. that way.
Great. Well, I'm glad we covered that. So, Divya, before we finish up here, is there anything else that we didn't cover that you want to talk about?
Well, what comes to mind is sitting in air-conditioned spaces.
Yeah.
Because that affects our well-being also. So, of course, when it's very hot outside, we tend to turn on the air conditioner because we just feel like our blood is boiling or something. We're sweating too much. So if you have to turn on the air conditioner, don't make the room too cold so that there is not too much of a shock going in and going out of the house. I try here in our apartment. If it's not too hot outside, we don't turn on the air conditioner. It's also saving electricity and the cost of it. But right now it's outside is maybe 78 degrees. Inside is 76, and I'm very comfortable without air conditioner.
Right.
And the windows are open. So and it feels very comfortable. So be mindful, because we can actually get sick if the difference between the inside temperature and the outside temperature is too big. So we can get, and I see people getting like cold symptoms because they're sitting in air conditioning rooms. I'm aware that a lot of workspaces, especially in America, I mean, even you go to the grocery store, it's so cold.
So cold.
and the workspaces are too cold. And so if you feel cold, just put on long sleeves or a jacket or something so that you're not experiencing that shock of temperature. Right.
And if you're in direct, force of that wind coming at you, like under a ceiling fan or in direct line of the AC, that can be very aggravating for Vata too, can't it? That excess mobile quality. But what I do here, well, I have shutters here. So I, close the shutters during the day so the sun isn't coming directly in. And you can do that, like shut your curtains, your blinds, so that you're not coming home to a super hot apartment or house.
That's a great tip. Yeah. There are many issues with the air conditioner, especially if the ducts are not cleaned regularly, if the filters are not changed regularly. All this can cause like allergy-like symptoms as well. So, yeah. My husband and I differ on this. He loves air conditioning, and I'm like, so he's not here, I don't run it.
And it depends on the constitutional type, right?
Yes.
Great, Divya. Well, thank you. I think we covered some great things today, some really great tips for cooking and managing our agni during the hot summer months, and I really appreciate it. So tell me now about what's going on with Divya's kitchen, Divya's world.
Divya's world. We just graduated. I'm so proud. We just graduated our 50 plus students from our Ayurvedic nutrition and culinary training, the professional level 2. So for the past 10 months, we were studying very intensely, and it was a very deeply transformative experience, not just for the students, but for me as well.
Congratulations.
Yes, it's such a wonderful and such amazing people. I'm very proud of them. And we have many more trained Ayurvedic chefs now.
Fantastic.
So if any of our listeners, if you're doing a retreat or you're looking for a private Ayurvedic chef, or you're going through postpartum and you need help with cooking, we have really trained chefs who know how to help with that. And that's why we do this training, is because the Ayurvedic chefs are not very easy to find that have done extensive training. And that's always the missing link for a lot of events and retreats and conferences. So that's why we're doing this training. And we have people from all over the world, not just in America. We have more chefs now.
Wonderful.
What else? We added a lot more new products for the summer to our food products at divyas.com.
I saw coconut chutney there.
Oh yes, the coconut chutney is delicious. You
Yum.
just have to blend it with water and it's ready. It's a little bit of lime
Perfect.
juice. It's ready. And I added a couple of no-cook products with millet flakes and dehydrated vegetable crystals from regenerative farms in the US, which means that these vegetables have grown on very rich soil, so they're much higher in nutrients.
Oh, fantastic. Well done you for going that extra step. I'm not
Yeah,
surprised because you do. You have such integrity, but it's wonderful.
I mean, I was so excited to find this company, but also because we're traveling so much. And the last time I traveled, it was an Ayurvedic conference. The food was so bad. And the hotel, the bed and breakfast was so bad. I literally almost started. It was very hard to eat properly. So these products are we just pour hot water on top and let it sit for 10 minutes and it's ready and it's delicious. And it's really something healthy and nourishing to have when you're traveling. And what else? We're restructuring our business, so hopefully soon our products will be available all over the world. You can order them from France.
Wow. Oh, really? That's fantastic. International shipping?
Yes, we have to do a website, which we're in the process of doing right now, to
Oh, that's
facilitate
great.
international distribution, but that's coming very soon. And of course, the master classes are there. And in the summer, if you have more time to study, check out my master classes because they will empower you to really know how to cook with the seasons and how to determine which food's the best for you, depending on how you feel. And it's a lot of fun. And we're planning to film a couple of more of masterclasses this year because we've been asked so many times, can you make a class on this and on this and show more recipes? And I'm like, yes, I want to. We just need a sponsor because it's expensive to film.
Yeah, to produce those. Yeah.
But we're here to serve, and I'm excited to see now that I'm a free bird. I don't have a lot of classes scheduled for the next couple of months, so I am excited to deepen my own studies. And I'm planning to go back to India, Colette.
Oh, fantastic.
God willing, in November, I would like to do Panchakarma with Dr. Satyajit.
Great.
And before that, I want to go on a little pilgrimage to Vrindavan and a few more places. So I look forward. I haven't been to India for 20 years.
That was my next question. Really, 20 years? My goodness. Oh, it's going to be a wonderful trip back. And to take time out, given that you've been very busy the past few years and you've had this huge growth, right? And producing all these wonderful products, it'd be great to take some time out and to do a Panchakarma.
Yeah, I look forward to it. And my own study, I look forward to deepening my own studies.
Right. Great. Such wonderful things you're putting out into the world, Divya. It really is fantastic. You have such a wealth of knowledge and that you're sharing that with others and just putting out great vibration into the world. Thank you for all you do.
You too. I give all credit to you also.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
We're part of a wonderful community. And
absolutely.
It's so easy to become focused on all the negative and challenging times with the economy, with the politics, with the climate change, with, personal conflicts and health challenges and all that. It's so easy to get caught up in that and forget who we are and what we're meant to do in the world. And so I really appreciate our Ayurveda community because we know how to keep our frequency high. We know how to be centered internally and to really see life from the bigger picture. and we know how to protect life.
Right.
Being part of this community and spreading positivity and light and knowledge to help people during dark times. It's our calling, and I'm just so grateful to be to know you and to be part of
Likewise.
the community.
Wonderful. Yeah, it's during the hard times. That's when we need to really lean on these wonderful Ayurvedic practices and teachings, because this too shall pass, but leaning on these practices will really help keep us grounded and remind us, like you said, the bigger picture of it all, what it's all about. So Divya, it's always a pleasure. Thank you so much. And I will put all those links in the show notes that Divya just mentioned. And I hope you have a wonderful summer, and I look forward to chatting with you again soon. We'll definitely have to do an update when you come back from India.
Oh, yes, for sure. Thank you again for having me. Thank you, everyone, for listening.
My pleasure. Take good care of yourself. Be well. I hope you enjoyed that conversation with Divya. Lots of great tips for summer cooking there. And please check out all the links in the show notes to connect with Divya. Also in the show notes, you'll find all the information on that special discount I'm offering due to the 7-year anniversary of the podcast. And you just have to use that coupon code anniversary at checkout when you're purchasing your consultation to receive a 10% discount until July 31st, 2024. So make sure you take advantage of that offer. If you think that this episode would be helpful to family or friends, please share it with them so we can spread this wonderful wisdom of Ayurveda. And if you find that this podcast is helpful to you, you're getting lots of information from this podcast, I would really appreciate a rating and review wherever you listen to your podcast. And if you haven't already subscribed or followed the podcast, please do so the new weekly episodes will automatically download for you. And come join me on social media. My new Instagram page is Elements of Ayurveda Podcast, and you'll find me on Facebook under Elements Healing and Wellbeing. Thank you so much for tuning in. And until next time, take good care of yourself, be well, and bye for now. Slán go fóill.